Well, hello and welcome to this session of ExecuNet Masterclass. I'm your host, as always, Tony Vlahos, and my guest this hour is internationally recognized career and leadership coach, author, speaker, and educator, Kathy Caprino. A question for the women joining us today. Are you being the most powerful version of yourself? If you had to pause to think about it, the answer is probably no. Well, you're in luck because today Kathy shares the seven most damaging power gaps professional women face and offers concrete, proven steps to take to close these gaps and reach your highest potential and most thrilling visions. Now, for the men out there, I know I'm not the only one tuning in today. Listen up because today's talk could enhance your personal and professional development too and inform how you work with women and move them through the organization and grow as a result of that. So please stick around. There's a lot to learn, really important stuff. And a part of our commitment here at ExecuNet to connect you with trusted voices, people like Kathy, who you could listen to and learn from, and then go out there and create the career and life you want. Well, I am always delighted to spend time with today's guest. Kathy Caprino is the author of the smashing new book, Breakdown, Breakthrough, and the Most Powerful You, Seven Bravery Boosting Paths to Career Bliss. And it comes out, I think, the very top of August. So here we are on the cusp of an amazing new title. Please check it out. With her Finding Brave podcast and other key resources and services, Kathy's core mission is to support a Finding Brave global movement that inspires and empowers women to close their power gaps, create more impact, and make the difference they long to in the world. She's a senior Forbes contributor and top media source. She's a former corporate vice president, a trained marriage and family therapist, experienced coach, and just a wonderful friend. With that, welcome Kathy to the ExecuNet stage. They are all yours.
Oh, Tony, thank you so much for having me. And Kimberly, thank you for your help. It's such an honor and such a thrill. Thank you. Thank you. I want to jump in. I understand that I'll be speaking about 45 minutes and then we're going to open it up to Q&A. Is that right, Tony? I think it is. I think it is. All
That
right.
is right.
Okay. I'm going to turn off my camera and I'm going to dig in. Here we go. All right. We're talking about the most powerful you. Close your power gaps and build your best career. So, I would love to talk about what this whole presentation is intending to do here. What I want to talk about is, first of all, what is power? The seven damaging power gaps that professional women face, and I'm going to tell you where this information comes from in a second. I want to touch on also the six dominant action styles that we need to understand. We need to understand our unique action style, and I have a very fun survey to take for that. We have to understand what our style is towards achieving a goal and what motivates us to do that. And we have to make sure that we're able to use that style in the work that we're doing in the organization we're serving. Then I want to talk about five brave pathways to career bliss. And all along, I want to talk about how do we succeed even in times like these, because this is what I hear from so many women that I work with. But before I dig into this, I want to talk about, let's go back, why I'm bringing this to you. Why do I speak about this information? So briefly, just so that you can understand the context here. I had an 18-year corporate career, as Tony mentioned, in marketing and publishing and membership services. And truly, on the outside, it was successful, but on the inside, it was not. I faced bumps that turned into full blown crises. I faced sexual harassment, gender discrimination, toxic colleagues, narcissistic bosses, zero work life balance. My kids were little then, and I struggled to be in the fabric of their life that I so wanted to be. Chronic illness. I had an infection of my trachea, of all things, every 3 months or 4 months for 4 years. I'd get terribly ill. But honestly, worse than all of that put together was waking up and saying, is this the work that I'm going to be doing? Is this it for the rest of my life? Because it felt so lacking in meaning and contribution in the world. But I didn't know how to make change. I did see a therapist. I saw a career counselor, and none of it moved me forward to change careers. And now I know why that is, but then I didn't, of course. So I didn't make the changes I needed to. And 1 month after moving to a bigger home and more financial responsibilities was 9/11. And 1 month later, I was laid off in a way that was truly brutal. I mean, to my ego, I would say. I would I would characterize it as a true breakdown moment that paved the way for breakthrough. And what it allowed me to do, and you can read about this story in detail if you're interested in the new book, but it allowed me to realize I wanted to stop hurting others and being hurt, which is how I would look at my career. And I became a therapist, a marriage and family therapist. And I loved that work and it was life changing. But then I found coaching. And I was most lit up when I was working with professional women who were struggling. So that is what I've been focused on for the past 15 years. And what I'm about to share with you is research from 10 years of working with thousands of women around the world. And what I want to talk about here is this. When you are seeing that number of people, what I realize is when I talk to one person, they represent hundreds. When I'm hearing from thousands, they represent millions. And what hundreds of professional women around the globe have come to me for career help around is this. They feel unable to work, lead, and communicate and grow the way they want to. They don't feel recognized or valued. They feel they're meant for something bigger and better, but they actually can't figure out what that is. They aren't advancing or receiving the compensation or the recognition they deserve. They're not doing work that feels right, good, or purposeful. They're tired of the toxicity and the struggle. And in short, they simply want more, different, and better in their professional lives. They don't feel able to reach their highest potential. So, in doing this work now and also overcoming everything I had to overcome in this corporate career that was, I would say damaging, honestly, I realize it's this. We need to build, in order to build a better and more rewarding career, we need what I call the 5 C's. We need clarity on who we are, what we have to offer, and why that is valuable, and what we want to do with those incredible gifts. We need more confidence than we have today. We need courage to take the action that's required to build that confidence and to leverage our talents the way we want to. We need connection. We need people in our lives, ambassadors, sponsors, mentors. We cannot achieve our biggest dreams alone and in a vacuum. And we also need commitment, meaning this isn't easy, this work. This is deep work to excavate who you really are and then leverage it. We need commitment. Okay, great. So, how are we going to get that? Well, one other point I want to make is I have found in working with so many women that the right career aligns with your natural talents and your gifts. It isn't work where you're using skills that you hate to use. So many women come to me, and again, they're coming because they know they need a shift, but they don't really know why or how. Um, they're using often skills that they've honed, that they went to school for because they thought that would be a good career, that would be how they're going to make money. That sounds like the secure, steady job, but they don't enjoy those skills. Those skills are hard. Well, you really can't have a career that you adore when you feel like it's a challenge every day. And what I want to tell you is, in pulling the viewfinder back a few years ago, I said to myself, what is happening here that so many thousands of women are coming no matter how much money they make? And I've worked with women making 20,000 to over a million. No matter what country they live in, no matter what education, no matter what field, no matter what function they're serving, they're having the same kinds of challenges. How is this happening? And what I recognized is this. I asked myself this question. What are they coming to that and expressing that they're missing in their lives and work? And what are they getting out of career coaching? And the answer was this: bravery and power. That is what they are missing. So I do want to identify or define what do I mean by bravery and what do I mean by power. Bravery to me in this case is having the strength, the courage to admit what isn't working, to address it, and to take accountability for changing it. That to me is bravery. And power is positive power, the power to become a change agent for your own life and for others, to do what needs to be done, to change what needs to be changed, to say what needs to be said. That's power. But what's interesting is women have said to me, I don't want power. And I'll say, okay, tell me why. What's beneath that? And they say because power is abused. So what I want to teach here, one of the numbers of key concepts is this. If we shun power, we will not reach our highest potential. We just can't because we need internal and external power to create what we want. But it's a certain kind of power I'm talking about, a certain kind. It's the power to, not the power over. It's the ability to accomplish and manifest what you want. It's being a force for good in the world. It's having influence to make a difference. And it's authority, self authority, and outer authority to lead and work as you wish to. And it's trusting yourself, trusting in your ideas, trusting in your visions, not doubting yourself, not doubting your decisions. That's what power is that I'm talking about. And we have to remember that power doesn't have to be what we see all around us today. Power doesn't have to be abusive or harsh or critical or aggressive or angry. It doesn't, it can be gentle and loving and kind, but it's still power. So why do we need this? Right? What does it feel like to be a brave and powerful woman? And I think Tony, you alluded to this, but I want to say this for everyone who's listening. Yes, this is geared for women, talking about what I've seen are women specific challenges, but I believe that men will benefit from this content as well. And also, anyone who's leading and managing people, I believe it's going to help you be a better leader and manager when you understand what women are facing. And I also want to say this, I don't mean to paint all women with the same brush or all men with the same brush. That's doing a disservice to all of us and to humanity. But I am saying in doing this work for 15 years and researching it, and oh, I did want to share, I've done a survey, a quantitative survey as well. I'm going to tell you this, the results of that. So seeing those trends and that data, I'm confident that this is what a majority of women are facing. But what does it feel like to be a brave and powerful woman? You engage in meaningful and rewarding work. You earn the respect and recognition you deserve. You leverage your natural talents, those gifts and talents that you have that come very easily to you. You're leveraging them in ways that you love. You're able to build heart connected relationships and you're losing your fear of vulnerability and that allows you to connect more openly. And finally, you're uplifting others as you rise. So, I love to talk about this, and we're going to get there in a minute, but why do we stay stuck? It's because we're not acting differently. We're not operating differently in the world. And when we embrace these brave and powerful steps, you operate in these ways. You start advocating much more powerfully for yourself and others. And you serve as a role model when people see you leading and managing and speaking and operating from this kind of confidence and self trust and, yes, self love. You become a role model for both men and women to do that. You also are able to release the pain and trauma from the past. And we're going to talk about that. And you communicate in ways that inspire and elevate rather than crush down and tear down. That's how we reach our highest potential. So, I want to share with you what my research has shown are the top 7 power gaps that women are facing. Here's the deal. So, close to 1,000 women have taken my Power Gap survey. And what that survey shows is 98% of the women I surveyed around the world are having at least one of these gaps. and over 75% are experiencing 3 or more at the same time. And I can tell you, if you are experiencing these gaps, you're not you're not reaching the potential you want. You're not fulfilling the career dreams you have. You're not making the impact you want. You're not having the joy and reward you want, right? So let's talk about them. And I'm going to dig into each one and then give you an antidote for that, how we close these gaps with specific steps. Now, I only have an hour, so I'm going fast, and I know you have questions. So make sure you're jotting those down, and I'll try to answer those as best I can. Gap number one is not recognizing your special talents, abilities, and achievements. 63% of the women said, I have this gap. Number two is communicating from fear, not strength. 70% said, yes, I have it. Reluctance to ask for what you want and what you deserve. 77%. Number four is isolating from influential support. 71%. Number five, acquiescing instead of saying stop to unfair behavior and to mistreatment. 48% said yes to this. Number six is losing sight of your thrilling dream for the future, and that's 76%. And number seven is allowing the past and or past trauma to shape and define you still. That's 62% say they are facing that. All right. Now, interestingly, of all the gaps, the one that more people said was the most pressing to them was losing sight of my thrilling dream. 25% said that's the most pressing gap. So let's dig in. Again, what I want us to understand is a lot of people say to me, I have read 20 self help books. I've taken a lot of webinars. I've gone to classes. Why am I still so stuck? Well, what I've seen in doing this work, and I just got off a call with my Amazing Career Project course for women. It's not enough to recognize, to have insight that, oh, it's because of this boss or it's because of my childhood that I don't speak up. Insight isn't enough, it's action. And that's what we're going for. By the end of this call, I'm really hoping that this is a breakthrough moment for me where you have action that you can take that's going to move you forward. So, what is this framework for change? The 7 brave pathways to career bliss. And do I mean bliss? I do. I really mean it. Going from having been a person that spent 18 years having some good times, having some good experiences, but overall not feeling really aligned with my work to what I do now. Bliss is in our future if we take these steps. So, how we close these gaps are what I call the bravery boosting paths: brave sight, brave speak, brave ask, brave connection, brave challenge, brave service, and brave healing. All right, these 7 paths are going to do everything that we're hoping here: self mastery, personal courage, communication strength. So, here we go. Number one is brave sight. Now, what did we say? I don't have it in front of me. 70, yes, I do. 63% of the women who took the survey said they're experiencing this. If you ask me, it's 98% of women. How do I know this? And what do I mean? They have a deep challenge recognizing that they're talented and gifted and valuable. Again, how do I know this? I have something called a career path assessment. It's 11 pages of questions I wish someone had asked me 30 years ago. And if I had answered those questions honestly, I would not have made the mistakes I made in my career. And in that, there's a question: how do you stand out? What are your special talents? I can't tell you how many women leave it blank or say something like, I'm not sure. I think maybe this. This has to change. We need you to recognize that you are gifted. Everybody is. Everyone on this planet has gifts and talents, and everyone is valuable. But if you don't know what those are, you can't leverage them and you can't speak about them and you can't monetize them. So the question is, do you know what your natural capabilities and strengths are? Those that come easily to you that make a difference. So I'm going to share a few steps to get in touch with uh, brave sight, you understanding. I'm looking at my notes here. You understanding how amazing you really are. Everyone is like a thumbprint, so special, so unique. So, in my TEDx Talk Time to Brave Up, I talk about the 20 facts of you. And what I want you to do, and I really mean this, I hope you don't just hear this as a talking head and say, well, that was interesting. I mean, take these steps because they're going to be transformative, I hope. This weekend, spend an hour or two distraction free, alone, with a blank pad of paper and begin to brainstorm the 20 most powerful and important outcomes that you've achieved in your career that make you most excited and proud, that can't be refuted. Now, what's interesting to me is when I work with professional women and I look at their LinkedIn profile, I love LinkedIn. To me, it's the cocktail party in the sky. It's where you can meet the most thrilling, inspiring people in the whole world and connect with them. But when we're looking at what they say on LinkedIn, and I can see a lot in 5 minutes about a person by what they share or don't share on LinkedIn, they say, I think I did these things, but well, I know I did them, but excuse me, I'm afraid someone's going to say, well, she didn't do that. And so I say to this person, Sally, did you do it or didn't you? And she then will say, I did it. I turned a fading business around. I generated 5 million in new revenue. I streamlined a process that did this, this, and this. I developed 4 new products. So I say, why are you scared to say it? And again, it's that they're afraid someone might say she didn't. Well, we have to get over that. I mean, certainly you're not going to take credit. If you manage a team, you're not going to, and the team did the work and you were the supervisor, you're going to say, I supervised a team that did this. You're not going to take credit where credit is due, where credit is not due. But generally, women are afraid to say the thing that they did. I want that to change for you. I want you to understand what you've done in your organizations, the needles you've moved that have made you thrilled and proud. And then we talk about those. Okay. I also want to suggest this step. Recognize who you've always been. So, what does this mean? Look back on who you were in your early years 16, 18, 20, 22. What did you love to do? How did you stand out? What were your core passions? And how have those gone underground? I want to give you a brief example. When I was 18, I was a singer. I loved being on stage. I was a competitive tennis player. I loved competition. I thrived on that. I had a psychologically oriented mind. I loved to understand why people do what they do. Friends, young friends would call and say, can I come over and talk to you? And they would share a deep problem in their life and they'd want help. And I honestly would say to my mom, why are they asking me? I'm only 16. I don't know. But I had a therapeutic ear even then. I was passionate about understanding why people do what they do and also how to take chaos and turn it into a bit of organization and making sense of things. And I was a writer. Well, unbelievably, I didn't understand that those were talents. And they all went underground for 18 years. I didn't leverage any of those. So now in the work that I do, I leverage all of that, and that's why it's joyful and meaningful. So, what are the dots you need to connect? The themes of your life that were there early on, that you loved, that you've forgotten about. Another reason people don't understand they're gifted is they think, like, let's say for me, for instance, I love to stand on stage and I love to speak. When something comes easily to you, you don't think it's a gift. But I've read that I think standing on stage and public speaking is like number 2 of the top 10 most fear-inducing things humans can do, under losing a spouse and moving, or something like that. Well, what are the things that you do that other people say, I can't believe how easily you do that? You come in and you design a room, or the way you speak to people, or the way you present data. This is what we're looking at. What are those things that you stand out in? It's so important that you know those. Take my free career path assessment. It's linked to in the PDF. Take it. It takes a few hours, but it's so important that you answer these questions. Number 2, the second brave path here to career bliss is brave speaking. I hesitate. This is just a hard one to talk about. Women struggle at speaking powerfully. Now, I want to say this. There are reasons that this is true. Number one, I have to start by saying this. We are what our childhood taught us to be. Let me say it again. We are what our childhood taught us to be, unless we've healed it and unlearned it. So many women are taught, don't speak up, don't sound like a braggart. I mean, I've lived all of this. I want you to know all of these gaps I have lived and I have overcome. And today I'm still working on quite a number of these. You don't just wake up and you've overcome them and they're gone. It's a journey. It's a journey for a lifetime. I grew up, for instance, being obedient. It wasn't safe, it wasn't right to challenge authority. But there's another reason. Culturally and societally, women go underground at about age 12 and 13. The research shows before that, girls see themselves as leaders just as much as boys. They raise their hand to share their ideas. They think, they sign up for leadership roles. They're interested in STEM topics just as much as boys. They think they can be an astronaut. The sky's the limit. But about age 12 to 13, girls start going underground. They don't speak up as much. They don't challenge things as much. They don't raise their hand for leadership as much. They become very self-conscious and worried about their body image. And social media pressure impacts them more in general. So there are societal and cultural influences that are contributing to these power gaps. But women are challenged, and frankly, we're challenged in our adult life in speaking up. I did an interview in my Forbes blog that still blows me away with David Maxfield and Joseph Grenny about gender bias. And quickly, they interviewed an actress, now we call them actors, female actor, saying some forceful words, and they filmed a male actor saying these same forceful words. And it was something like, I don't agree with the direction the team is going. And audiences saw those videos, and the woman who said the forceful words dropped in perceived competency and perceived value, dollar value in the workplace exponentially more than the man dropped. I guess we don't like forceful people in general, but women are still penalized. And that is because we live in a patriarchal world. This is not to bash men. This is to talk about the ecosystem we're in, the system that we're in. And the dominant culture in corporate America and leadership, for instance, is male. Um, so what is happening here is we in a patriarchal world understand what the masculine, and I'm saying it in quotes, looks like. Our projection of the masculine. It's strong, forceful, dominant, not emotional, not vulnerable. What is the feminine? Soft, vulnerable, accommodating, pleasing, malleable. That's what we have grown up understanding in a patriarchal society. That's what's at the root of this. But we must start talking more powerfully and confidently about who we are, what we want, and what is necessary. So I would ask you, if you struggle with this, and I sure do, still do, when I have to say hard things, when I have to fire someone, when I have to, uh, you know, share something that's going to upset somebody, I still struggle. But thank goodness I've worked through that and I still say what needs to be said. What's at the root of your reluctance to speak up? Often it's going to be childhood. It's what you learned and how you were trained. But what I ask every woman listening to do is to watch your language. Where are you apologizing? The research says that women apologize, X times more than men. Where are you communicating weakly without confidence or command or authority? Where are you weakening your message? For instance, in a meeting, when you're about to say something, you might say, I don't know if this is right, but don't say that. Or I don't know if this is important, or, I'm sorry, but I think you're actually broadcasting that other people shouldn't listen to you. Right? When do you agree when you don't? When do you stay silent when you should speak up? Right? And when are you resisting taking credit when you deserve the credit? It's so important. So think about who stopped you from speaking powerfully. We don't come out of the womb speaking from fear or shame or weakness. We learned it. Where did you learn it from, do you think? And what do you need to unlearn? Oh, I do want to share this. One of the outcomes of the research I mentioned with the behavioral science guys, that's their name, was this. They tested value statements. They tested a wide array of different kind of statements that these actors would say before saying that forceful statement to see if anything can mitigate the backlash. And what they found is when you put a value statement in front of it, in front of the forceful thing you're about to say, it mitigates the backlash. So, for instance, you might say something like, I really value authenticity and honesty and transparency. So, I need to share, I don't agree with the direction the team is taking this. And what they found is that allows people to hear the statement in a different way. So think about that, a value statement, something you can say that you value right before you make a difficult statement. Brave ask is the third pathway to career bliss. So many women struggle to ask for what they need and want, whether that's a promotion, a raise, working on a plum new assignment. One of the studies I talk about in the book is uh, it was shown that in one study, right out of MBA school, 57% of men negotiated their very first salary, and 7% of women did. We have to change this. We have to understand that if unless we ask for what we need and want, we're not going to get it. And you know what comes to my mind? Maybe someone out there, sometimes I have a psychic flash of what people are thinking. Some people every once in a while will say, are you saying we should act like a man? No, I'm saying we need more courage and bravery. If you think that's like a man, then I think that's a patriarchal, kind of rigid stereotype. There are strong, courageous, confident women. We need bravery and we need courage. And so I don't ascribe that to men. I ascribe it to anyone who's going to get what they deserve. And that's what we need here. But how do we do it? Let's say it's a raise. Let's say it's a promotion. Let's say you want to move to a different division or take on a new project. You have to build a compelling, strong case for it with data. It can't be about you only. I want this. I deserve this. It has to be with facts and data. And you have to talk about why getting what you're wanting is going to be good for the system, the ecosystem, the organization, right? So a lot of people tell me, I don't even know if I deserve, I don't know what I deserve. You must figure that out. If you think you are underpaid, you got to go figure it out. Do competitive salary research. Maybe in your company it's open. You can see who makes what. You've got to know why, what you think you deserve, and then build a case. If you think you deserve 10,000 more, why? What have you done in the company that's moved the needle that's going to make that something that your manager can say, yeah, you have deserved that. Is it a raise? Is it leadership responsibility? Is it even more help from your spouse? So much research has come out during the pandemic that while women, even when they were the primary breadwinner, were still doing the majority of domestic responsibilities. In the pandemic, it's gotten even more unbalanced with kids needing schooling and helping managing their time and feeding kids at home. What do you need? Identify it clearly and understand why you getting what you want is going to help the entire system, and then make a stand for it. Okay? Brave path number 4 is brave connection. I did not understand this when I was in my corporate life. I just didn't get it. And one of my most difficult bosses, who I think was a narcissist, I now know, did say to me, you know what, Kathy? It's not what you do that brings you success, it's who you know. And I thought at the time, ugh, what, that means, what about a meritocracy that the great work you're doing is going to be recognized? Sure, it is going to be recognized, hopefully, but you still need people in your corner. You need mentors, you need sponsors, and you need ambassadors, people who are going to open the door for you, open doors and opportunities that you can't open yourself. And mentors, and if you don't know what I mean here, let me talk about that for a second. um, the way I view it is mentors are people who are in your sphere, who you've demonstrated your potential to, who is happy to help you, guidance, advice, strategies, and you can construct that mentorship relationship any way you want, but it can be once a month, you might have a short call, whatever way works. Sponsors are that plus something else. They have power, they have clout, they're influential. Now, what the research shows is women have 3 times as many mentors than men, but men have twice as many sponsors. And there's a reason for that. I think men are culturally trained to look a little more hierarchically. Who's got power here? Who's got the one up? I'm going to go allied with them or align with them. Women don't tend to be trained to do that. But we must have people in our sphere, in our community, who are 10 steps ahead of us, doing what we want the way we want it. And we need their help. So we have to get in the right room, whether you are a corporate VP or you want to start your own business or you're already an entrepreneur or you're going out on your own as a consultant or you really want to up level yourself and become a senior vice president or a director. You've got to be in the right room with the people who are going to help you do that. And there's lots of amazing ways that you can build mentors and sponsors and ambassadors. Ambassadors to me are people who love you. They love your work. They sing your praises. And you can do this on LinkedIn as well. You don't have to have them in your geographic sphere. You can find people who are rocking it in this world, and you can get on the map with them by being of value to them. And I can talk about that later if you have a question on that. All right, number 5, brave pathway is brave challenge. This one's hard to talk about. For me, I still get choked up. Thousands of women are acquiescing instead of saying stop to mistreatment, discrimination, gender bias, and stereotyping. Here's the data. As many as 8 out of 10 women will experience sexual harassment at work, and 4 in 10 have reported some form of gender discrimination. I have faced it. I've faced sexual harassment. I've faced gender bias of all kinds. I've faced mistreatment of all kinds. And this is what I want to say. What are we accepting that needs to end? Now, I need to say this too. Every once in a while, someone will say, I think you're blaming the victim. And I want to say unequivocally, I'm not blaming the victim. What I'm doing here is doing everything I can to help women uplift themselves out of victimhood. And it is possible. And I have been through it. It is possible, but it has to be done, of course, in a way that's safe. I'll never forget this. The first time I presented this data in front of 250 people was last fall at Network of Executive Women Leadership Conference. And a woman stood up, a young woman, and said, Kathy, I have to share that in every job I've ever had, there's been sexual harassment. Is it your belief, these were her words, that I should grin and bear it? And I was so floored, but I said, no, it is not my belief you should grin and bear it. Grin is smiling at it. Bearing it is accepting it. We have to find a way. Now, there's a lot of ways we can do this. But what I'm asking you to do is if you're facing and it's very crazy making. When I face sexual harassment and gender discrimination, I wasn't clear, what is this? My head was in a swirl. So often we don't really know what it is because we're alone hacking it out. But what I'd ask you to do is try to recognize what is happening and what you need to address and take a step. Get clear on what's no longer acceptable and do the internal work to understand if you have in some way allowed it. There's a really powerful story in the book, a personal story about how I deleted an email that was proof that I've been sexually harassed. I deleted it on my way out. And I'll tell you, you read the book and you'll see why. There's a reason we do that. And it's heartbreaking. But what I want you to do is understand, are we attracted? If you've had difficulty in your childhood and narcissism and emotional manipulation, often you're attracted to difficult and toxic environments. Are we co-creating it? Are we attracted to it? Are we allowing it? And decide with outside help if you need it, how you're going to address it. Take a stand. And there's some steps. You can talk to a lawyer. I did that and it was life changing and it went very well for me. And I will never forget the lawyer listening to my story and saying, "Yep, there's something here." I'll never forget it. You could speak to your boss if your boss is safe. Sometimes your boss is not safe. You can speak to HR. I just, did a webinar 2 days ago to a whole group of HR people, and I had to say this: sometimes HR is not safe. Sometimes, they're caught between a rock and a hard place, and they're not safe to go to. You have to suss out your ecosystem and understand this is where mentors and sponsors are helpful. You can ask them, look, this is what I'm going through. What do you think? Or you could work with a coach or a therapist, but it's time now. Number 6, I'm going fast, is brave service. And this is, I'm going to start with this quote from Maria Nemeth from her book, The Energy of Money. If you struggle with money, I would highly recommend reading this book. She says, people are happiest when demonstrating in physical reality what they know to be true about themselves, giving form to their life intentions in ways that help others. Break it down. Are you demonstrating what you know about your gifts, about your talents, about your brilliance? Are you demonstrating that? Are you hiding it? Or somehow it's not able to come out, right? Number 2, do you know what your life intentions are? Do you know at the end of your life what you want to have stood for and contributed? And, a lot of women fill this question out on my career path assessment and it's vague. I want to be a good daughter, a good mother. I don't want vague here. I want, if I haven't done this, I am going to regret it. I want specifics for you because then you're going to get on the path to fulfilling your life intentions. And the third part of this is this. The people I've seen who are most engaged and joyful and rewarded in their work is when they're helping others. They're using their amazing talents helping others. So I'd like you to think about that and, do some journaling about that. Here's another thing I really want to tell you. So many people come to me and say, I'm done with being an HR person, a finance person, a marketing person. I'm done and I want to, run a nonprofit or I want to write a book. Or they say, I don't know what I want. I just know it's not this. But just today, 20 minutes ago, a young woman said, I can't even answer the question because I'm scared to death I'm going to lose everything. I'm going to lose my salary. When you go to that place, when you don't even want to or feel comfortable exploring just a tiny micro step about exploring something else, maybe you want a new job, maybe it's time to leave your employer, maybe you need a new career, maybe you really want to start your entrepreneurial venture. But if you're too scared to even explore it, usually it's because you're scared of the money. I'm going to lose everything. And I just want you to know, if you do it in the right way, you're not going to risk everything. Yeah, there are wrong ways to do it. But if you do it in the right way, you're not going to risk everything. What is the right way? I love to say this: writers write, teachers teach, designers design, dancers dance. If you want to write, if you want to speak, if you want to think about starting a business, start something small now. Start a blog, write an article, create a webinar. Do the work that you want to do that's ideal now. Then you're going to be an energetic match to it as it moves forward. But just today, someone said, I'm a therapist, but I think I want to write. Great. What are you writing? I'm not writing. Well, you can't know if you want to write if you're not writing anything, because trust me on this, the living identity of a writer, it's not what people think. Just start now. You want to work with children? Find a way to work with children. Pursue it in doable, risk-free ways where you're trying on the professional identity of this thing. Then it's not just a fantasy that you're projecting on your own assumptions about what something is. Start. If you want to be a therapist, go look at what it requires to be a therapist or an art therapist or go look online. What would the training be? Find 50 people doing it. How long have they been doing it? What are they offering? Become a student of that thing, and you're not risking anything. You're just getting on the path to trying it on and start talking about it. And brave gap, finally, number 7 is brave healing. Again, you are what your childhood and your past taught you to be unless you have unlearned it and healed it. So I'd like you to ask yourself, what messages and coping strategies did you learn in your family that are no longer serving you? So as I was mentioning, this young woman said, I really want something different, but when I even think about it, I just go to the place where I'm going to lose everything. I'm too scared. Immediately, I know the answer to this question, but I said, did you have money trauma as a child? And the answer, she cried, immediately cried and said, I did. Yes. It's important that you look at the coping strategies you developed. And the idea is not to blame your parents or make them bad or, hate your childhood. It's that you heal beyond that childhood. Did you face suppression, narcissism, emotional manipulation? Were you in a situation where money was scarce? I had one client once where her father was a gambler, an addicted gambler. One year they were living like in the Taj Mahal. It was that, like a castle. The next year they didn't have money for a Christmas dinner. If you went through something like that, for instance, you're going to have money trauma. It's going to be intensely scary for you. You're either going to be a reaction to that, um, or you're going to be that. So understand what you learned in your childhood about money, about yourself, about women, about working women, about the nature of the universe. Is it safe? Is it scary? Is it bad? About asking for help. Understand all those messages and then look at, are they serving me today? Okay. I love this question. To me, it was such an eye opener. I was watching Tony Robbins' documentary, I Am Not Your Guru. And he's standing in front of a big audience and he asks this: who did you crave love most from as a child? And who did you have to be to get it? Holy crow. My answer was immediately I had to be brilliant for my dad and obedient for my mom. And I've since asked my mom, what do you think when I say this? And she hesitated. I asked her on the phone, and she said, yeah, I could see how you would think that because obedience was something we valued. She's Greek. She didn't speak unless spoken to. Sitting quietly in the corner, obedience was primary for my mother. And I don't blame her. I did blame her for a while, but I grew up not being able to challenge. And I also grew up, and my dad's passed away, but if I were to ask him, did I have to be brilliant to be loved by you? He would say, of course not. I love every fiber of you. But that isn't the message I got. The message I got when he'd look at all A's and an A minus was, oh, good. What happened here? So he didn't mean to give me that message, but that's the message I got, right? So we want to look at what are those messages that are with us today that are tripping us up. I have become a perfectionistic overfunctioner, doing more than is appropriate, necessary, and healthy, trying to get an A plus in all of it because I'm trying to demonstrate brilliance. And I've had to overcome that drive, that fear-driven drive. So, in wrapping up, I want to leave you with these thoughts. Your career and your life aren't just happening to you. What is chronically repeating is something you are participating in and co creating. If you always have a toxic boss, like somehow I did, why do I always have a toxic boss who I don't respect? Well, it turns out I have problems with authority. I'm so much happier on my own running my own business. What is chronically repeating? Why do I get passed over? Why am I shut down in meetings? Why do people say I don't communicate well when I think I communicate beautifully? What repeats that's negative and hurtful? That's something we have to look at, how we are co-creating that. I want to touch on, I know time is flying here, on action styles. Quickly, I pulled the viewfinder back on this and said, wow, everybody who's coming to me, it seems like there's kind of groupings of styles, who we are in the world, why we take action towards a goal, and what motivates us to complete that goal. You can take my action style quiz. It's really important you know what your style is. Striver, seeker, pacer, researcher, challenger, advocator. The names kind of speak for themselves. But take the quiz, and the key thing is, number one, Is the style that you're using at work a style that's foreign to you that you don't want to use and it's not who you really are, but you feel you've had to do it? Number one. Number two, is your real style something that you can't use in your current line of work or career? If you are a seeker and you want experiential information, you want to grow, you don't just want to check something off and, yep, I did it. You just want to grow in the experience. Can you do that? If you're a challenger, I just spoke to one of my clients who loves to challenge. Where's the data on this? Sounds like a good idea, but where's the data? Well, that challenging isn't being well received, especially if she's challenging her superior. If your ecosystem doesn't want you to research or challenge or advocate, then you're in the wrong place. So understand your action style. Take my quiz and see what it tells you. So, overall, my friends, what I'm talking about here is becoming the most powerful version of you. And when you do that, you truly illuminate the world with all of your gifts and talents, which are so huge and so important. Are you ready for a thrilling career of significance that you love and proud of and are proud of? If not you, who? And if not now, when? This pandemic, I have to tell you, when it first hit, I thought, well, there goes my coaching business. No one's going to care about their careers. Holy crow. I can't keep up. I now have a waiting list because in a pandemic, as in any major crisis, we rethink our lives and we understand how precarious life is and how precious. And we wake up and we say, that's it, I'm done. I'm going to live the life that I'm meant to live. So, which Finding Brave path speaks to you most today? Brave sight, speak, ask, connection, challenge, service, healing. Take one tiny step on the path to building that. All right, my friends, it's your time to shine. Did I do it? There's time for questions. I can't wait. And I want you all to know, take 20% off my career breakthrough program. You can see that on the slides. There's a coupon. Use that and do pre-order my book, will you? That would be an amazing gift to me if you would do that. And if you know any women who want to get on these bravery boosting paths, maybe you're in a book club with women, or maybe your network, your women's network wants it. If you order 10 copies, you get a free 30-minute consultation with me. You just send me the receipt. And there's a lot of other bonuses too. You can reach out to me at info@kathycaprino.com if you want more info on that. There we go. That's it.
All right, Kathy, are you ready for some questions?
I'm ready. Bring them on.
Well, before we get to that, could you tell us, please, where we can find the action style quiz? Is there a link to that somewhere?
Well, so Tony, I link to everything that I'm mentioning. So there's a link in this PDF.
Mhm.
So are you giving everyone the PDF?
Yes. So a
Okay,
note to all, it's something you have. Just check your PDF, and if you didn't access it before, you can still get to the handout section on the right, and Kim will help you if you have questions.
great.
So, Kathy, you
Wonderful.
want me to get my camera on for a few moments as
Oh,
well?
I'd love that. I'd love
All
to
right, here
see
we
you.
go. Ah,
Oh, oh,
oh my
there you
gosh, there I am.
oh,
All
there
right.
you are. There he is. Love it.
So
Oh,
cool. So let's get to questions in the time we have left, starting with a really difficult one, which is
oh no.
what type of inner work does Kathy do every day to be and show up as her most powerful self?
What a question. Um, so I have kind of a spiritual practice around that. Every day I say it's a mantra, it's a prayer, basically about letting me, with my voice and my ideas, be of help. And I think about that and really kind of let that into my cells. I also, because I want to be honest, because I work with a lot of people, it's an energy transfer. So sometimes if my boundaries are not strong, I find that I'm utterly exhausted after, say, three straight sessions. So my inner work is strengthening those boundaries, not trying to be a perfectionistic overfunctioner. In the beginning, for instance, I would always run over. I do run over with my courses in terms of the hours spent, but now I'm very well boundaried because if I don't end when I need to, I deplete myself. So I'm actually doing work on all of these. And certainly I'm looking at what's coming into my life. For instance, I've had to fire a service provider, and I'm going to be looking at communicating from strength. I read my own books. I might even open my book to a random page and say, what is it that I'm meant to learn today? And there's a lot, I do a lot of inner work because I need it. I hope that's helpful.
It is very cool. So here's what I'm reading. Kathy, I'm valued at my organization. I'm rewarded, but I'm afraid of being disliked. So I go along. How do I negotiate that part of what is otherwise a pretty good career?
What a question. What an incredible question. So, because I was a therapist, I have a therapeutic lens. When someone says I'm afraid of being disliked, my gut feeling is that is an old wound. So I would ask this person, how old is this feeling that you're going to be disliked when you are who you are? I'm pretty sure, and maybe they can type in that this is an old problem. If it isn't, if it's an old problem, maybe therapeutic help. And when I say that, listen, I've had therapy, I've been a therapist. I think everyone on the planet needs therapy, and, could use it at some point in their life. So this is not casting aspersion, but if it's a wound from the past that keeps coming up that prevents you from being yourself, that's a therapeutic thing we need to look. Go find a great therapist, and you can reach out to me. I have ideas. But if you're not saying it's a deep wound, what I'd also ask you is, why are you worried? What's underneath being worried about being disliked? Does it mean that your ecosystem, your culture at work has given you the idea that being who you really are is not acceptable? We've got to answer. It's kind of like going to a doctor. You if you show up and you say I have a big rash, they don't start diagnosing. They peel the onion. Okay, how long have you had it? Where is it? What have you been exposed to? That's kind of what we have to do when we have a deep issue like I'm concerned that I'm disliked. We've got to diagnose it. And I'm asking you to think about, how old is it? Where does it come from? Is it only this company? Is it my boss? Is it that I feel I really can never be who I want to be? That's how I'd address that.
Mhm. Thank you. Let's talk about networking just a little bit. You've said to me that women are often networking at the wrong level for their goals. Talk to us a bit about how to network effectively to accomplish any career goal or any personal goal.
All right, let's do it two ways.
Mhm.
If we were in the office, it's so hard to have to say that, but for instance, your president does a lunch and learn once a month. So many women tell me, "Yeah, I go to the back of the room. I'm not going to sit next to the president." Sit next to the president. Sit next to the inspiring person with power. And then after the president speaks, go up to the president and show your thought leadership. Wow, that talk or how you ran that really inspired me. We're also scared. We don't know if we're even coming back to our jobs. But here's what I got out of that. I promise you that's going to make an impact on the president. And you might even have a question. Can I ask blah 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 about whatever your career, your job? It has to not be a huge question that the person can't answer in that moment. But if they are that kind of person that they want to help you, they're going to engage and they're going to answer the question. And they might even say, come on, come to my office. And you can do that on a webinar after they speak. Write to them. That was so inspiring. Now, what do we do not in person? LinkedIn, people, LinkedIn. And I have taught so much about LinkedIn. LinkedIn has changed my entire career, frankly. Are you on there? Do you have more than 1,500 connections? Connect with me, please, because I have so many connections. You will now have those connections. Are you sharing? Are you following people who are doing things that you love, even if it's outside your small sphere? Are you sharing something once a day? Something from Tony, something from Kathy, something from Fred about, wow, I watched this and this was so. Share your thought leadership and tag those people, and you're going to get on their radar. So, I know you've had Judy, my dear sponsor, Judy Robinette, on your masterclass. Every book she writes is amazing. Crack the Funding Code and How to Be a Power Networker. She's fantastic. In the book itself, I have a whole section on why we isolate from influential support. It's not just we're not getting it, you're actually isolating from it. So it has a ton of strategies from 30 plus experts around the country about this, and there's some fantastic expert advice there about how do we network in the right room finally.
Terrific. Let's take a couple of more. So, if you're a woman and you're a woman of color, or if you're a woman and you're facing age bias on top of so many other challenges, how do you negotiate that territory? And that's a big question. I don't know what the exact answer is, but maybe you can give us some directional advice here.
Yeah, I want to talk about this. I've faced age bias. I got laid off and they replaced me with someone far less expensive, 15 years young, and a guy. Um, so it's age, it's gender. But I do want to say this. What I see for women, so I'm 60 people. I get it. I'm not a spring chicken. What I see, and please take this with the right tone here that I'm giving it. A lot of women go to the place where it's bias and they have built a story around I am being biased against. Often it's true, but sometimes it's not. What we need to do is get very clear about what that bias is. And what you want to do is start documenting. How do I know it? How do I see it? And honestly, if you are building a case and you are, I interviewed Tom Spiegel in the book, former federal prosecutor, on if you're sexually harassed or you're fired wrongfully as a woman, what to do. And his tips are incredible. But what you want to do is document, document, document. And in some states, you can even record a conversation with your boss and they don't know it. You have to check your state laws. But what you want to do then, if you really think there's a case, see a lawyer. Have one and he says why women don't do that is they think if they go see a lawyer, it means they're powering up for a massive lawsuit, thousands of dollars. No, have one consultation, 250 bucks. Say this is what's happening to me and it's happened before. What do I do? And make sure it's a lawyer who supports employees, not employers. Different lawyer. Um, so understand from someone who sees it day in and day out. What they often will say is there's something here, but you won't win in court. So then they might write you a letter. Maybe you want a severance package. Maybe you want, but you have to get some help understanding what is the extent of this and what are the facts and data about it.
Mhm.
Is there gender bias? Uh-huh. Is there age bias? Uh-huh. Is there racial bias? Of course. Yes, look what we're living with right now. So get some outside help to really understand what you're facing. Is that helpful?
It is, yeah. Let's take a couple of more. I know we're going over, but please stay
I
with us.
love
These
it.
are
I'm
good. They're
okay.
really good. So this is a chat that is echoed by many other chats, and I'll coalesce it to the following question, Kathy. I don't have the support of my spouse. I want to accomplish so much, and yet he's not with me on this. How do I broach this topic and get the support that I really need?
So if you were my therapeutic client as when I was a marriage and family therapist, I would ask some questions here. Some of the things you have to understand is let me give an example. If I'm the primary breadwinner and I'm making 150 grand and I go and tell my husband, I want to chuck all this and I want to be an entrepreneur. Most spouses freak out. Most spouses are like, what? Because their world is going to change. So, what we have to understand is why is your spouse not on board? Has he never been on board? Does he not believe women should be powerful? Does he love what you're doing and think the world of you being powerful, but who's going to be home for the two kids? We just had a baby. What do you mean? So it's an enormous issue. My spouse doesn't support me. Often it's fear. So, what you want to do, I mean, I wish I had more information, but sometimes it's the way we present it. So, I'm going to give one tip. If you present something fully baked, okay, Tony, I know I've been the primary breadwinner, but I'm going to chuck it all and I'm going to start being a career coach. People, when they are presented with it that way, they go to the resistance place. Hang on, wait a minute. This is our life. You can't just make that decision. If you half bake it, hey, Tony, I've been so unhappy, but it's really come to a head. I don't think I can continue like this. Can I talk to you about some big changes? And can I hear what you think about these? Sometimes when you present it half baked and get their buy in, get their feedback, you can make this happen. So it really depends on why your spouse isn't supportive. If he just doesn't want to see you change, that might be time for a marriage and family therapy visit.
Mm, great advice. All right, let's take one more. And I apologize, I'm not going to get to every question, but here's a good one. Where is that good one? I was just staring at it.
I'm going to close
It
my
is good.
blinds and you're going to look for the question. I'm getting
Oh,
blinded over
here it is.
here.
No, it's staring right at me,
Hot
Kathy.
and blinded. Okay.
So I've seen many people stall their careers by, quote, playing it safe. How can I learn to move through my career with more confidence and even a little abandon now and then?
Oh, what?
Told you it was a
Poetic.
good one.
Oh,
Yeah.
poetic. All right. First, again, here's my therapeutic lens and it works. Go to the place of why. What is the root of my playing it safe? And let me just explain this. Why that root is so important is, for instance, when I figured out my parents were World War II and depression babies, depression people, they are not about self actualization. They're about play it darn safe. That's what I grew up with. Another friend of mine, they were entrepreneurs for generations, coming over from Germany or Greece. Look at the root of why you feel the way you do, because if you don't change that root or address it, you're not gonna not play it safe. You're always gonna play it safe. So say it's something in your childhood. I was told you better play it safe. My father said it a million times. Okay, then you go, do I want to continue to play it safe? And I'm sorry, Dad. Sometimes our family is not on board with us not playing it safe. And you're going to get pushback. And if you have a very tribal family where everyone's always talking about each other, you're going to struggle. You got to figure out the root. The second piece is this is what happened in the course an hour ago. If I told you you can make small micro steps that are going to make you braver and make you powerful, but not going to risk everything, they're not going to be crazy. You're not going to lose your 401k overnight unless the economy, makes you do that. If you can see tiny micro steps to stop playing it safe, choose one thing every month to do that isn't going to turn the apple cart over. But here's what I'm going to leave you with. Do the thing that makes you say, if I can do that, I can do anything. For
Mm,
me, that was two things did that. When I was first getting my master's in therapy, I had to do first time therapy in front of a panel of people, two-way mirror, critiquing me. Literally, Tony, I thought I'm either going to have a heart attack, pass out, or vomit, but I'm not going to have to do this. I did it, and I did it well. Yeah, I made mistakes. So what? I passed that program with distinction, and I literally looked back and said, if I can do that, I can do anything. And the next one was, I want to be on television. The first time I got called to go to a satellite studio and do it, I said, why did I say I want to do this? I'm so scared. I did it. It was good. Do the thing that is going to make you say, ooh, if I can do that, I can do anything.
cool.
That's the thing to do.
Love it. Well, we're going to wrap this up. Kathy Caprino, thank you so much for making time, for sharing your insight, and for giving us that gift of the new book. I hope everyone checks it out.
So,
Thank you all for listening, for your time and attention. And as always, your marvelous questions. I learned so much just by getting to ask them. So before we officially wrap up today's session, any final thoughts, Kathy?
oh, first of all, bless you for having me. Thank you so much. And I hope everyone listening and also the managers and leaders working with women, I just hope you know you are so important in the world, especially today. We need you. Please, if you can't do it for yourself, do it for the world. We need your talents and we need them in a bigger way than we're getting them now. And I hope
Beautiful.
this motivates you.
Thank you again, Kathy. Thank you all. And I look forward to seeing you at the next session of ExecuNet
Thanks,
Masterclass. Bye
everyone.
for now.
Bye.